Thank you so much. So today I'm going to be talking about your precious life. If you ask a child, what's your dream? They'll say, I want to be an astronaut and go out into space. I want to be an explorer. I'm going to go all the way around the world. I'm going to be a superhero. But most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still inside them. Most people tiptoe their way through life, hoping to make it safely through to death. So what happens between life and death that crushes our dreams? Let's have a look at first, what do we mean by this precious life? So this is the present moment. It's what we're experiencing right now. Precious is something that's of high value. And our life is the life force that's within us that turns a motionless body into a living, breathing entity. So this precious life is a temporary, valuable gift. And it's supposed to be an experience, it's supposed to be an adventure, it's supposed to be fun. So if you imagine that our body is a little bit like a vehicle, it's the vehicle that we go through life with. And our soul is the engine, it's what brings it to life, it's the fuel. We can have a body or a car, we can have the fuel, but if we don't have a sense of direction, we end up just going around in circles. And what gives our life a sense of direction is having a sense of purpose. So the purpose is a little bit like a sat-nav for our lives. Children don't know how to express what their purpose is, but they have clues, so they express it in the only way they know how. So I want to be an adventurer, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a superhero. And yet, we go on to live lives of desperation with our song still in us and tiptoe safely through to death. Why is that? So in this session, I'm going to talk about three things. What blocks us from living our life on purpose? What are the changes that we can make while we're still alive? So while we're living, breathing, there are changes that we can make. And then just share some lessons from my life story as well. What blocks us? Three things I'm going to cover today are climbing the wrong ladder, fear, and carrying excess baggage with us. So climbing the wrong ladder. We spend our life desperately climbing the ladder of so-called success, only to get to the top and find that actually we're still feeling exhausted, we're still feeling empty, we've lost ourselves on the way. So what's actually happened? When we're younger, we receive messages about what success looks like. So it might be in our relationships, if you have this is a successful relationship. If you have this car, you'll be successful. If you have this house, you'll be successful. So other people define success for us, and we then work diligently towards those goals. When we get to the top of the ladder, we actually find that the boxes of so-called success were actually somebody else's definition, not ours, so we still feel quite empty. When we're young, we're pressured into making decisions about what we want to be when we're older, because we've got to pick the right exams, we've got to pick the right subjects at school. And at that age, we're still really tender, we're still really inexperienced, so we look to people that we know and trust to help us make those decisions. So it might be our parents, it might be our teachers, it might be other people that we trust. And this is the problem. Our parents want us to be safe. They want us to be secure. So they encourage us onto a path, often at the expense of our passions and our dreams, to do something that they feel comfortable with because they don't want you to get hurt. So we're taught at an early age to choose security and safety over adventure and growth. So that's the first reason that people get stuck. It's because they're not on a ladder that's aligned with their values and not something that they're passionate about, and so they don't feel motivated. Second reason is fear. So we're only born with two types of fear. One is of loud noises, and the other is falling. All our other fears are learned. as children, we're oblivious to danger. So when we want to go out there, life's an adventure, we want to try new things. And when we stick our finger in an electric socket or jump off a high wall, everybody goes, no, stop, be careful. And what we learn is that when we try something that's new and exciting, our parents get angry. Now, we need a certain amount of fear to keep us safe, but when does fear become damaging? To feel safe, children need love and approval from their parents. They need to feel that they're good enough. And because they don't have a concept of themselves, they look into their parents' eyes to see whether they're good enough. And when they see fear, when they see disapproval and rejection, that hurts them. So what they learn to do is they learn to make other people happy, give their power away to make other people happy, to get that love and approval, to prove to them that they're good enough. And then this continues throughout work, in relationships, in their job, in their career. So when you think about, what are these fears we're talking about? It's fear of things like disapproval. What if people don't like me? What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? What if I'm too successful? What if people laugh at me? So all these fears that that build up and build up and build up and just keep us small. There's even the fear of death, but the truth is, none of us are going to get out of here alive. So let me ask you this, what are you most scared of? Dying, or getting to the end of your life and realising that you never actually lived? So fear is the second block to our potential. The third is excess baggage. Now, how many of you are a little bit like me? When you go travelling, you take everything, including the kitchen sink, pay excess baggage, and then come back and realise you didn't use half the stuff? Yeah? You can hear a few murmurs around. And so that's what we do in life. We transfer this to other parts of our life as well. And if you think about the ladder of success that you're trying to climb, if you're carrying heavy baggage in your mindset, that's some of the biggest barriers that actually stop you from getting to where you want to be. So what we do is we turn past experiences into powerful beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not clever enough. I'm not creative enough. People won't want to buy from me. People won't want me to speak at their events. And we carry these stories in our own minds. And what we believe affects how we think. How we think affects how we feel. How we feel affects how we behave. And how we behave affects the results we get. So just to take you through a little example then. Imagine there are two women sitting in exactly the same meeting, working for the same company, and hearing the same information, which is that there's going to be a huge company restructure and there are going to be redundancies. So the top woman, woman A, says she believes, I better watch my back. How does that make her feel? It makes her feel fearful. How does she behave? If somebody makes a mistake, she makes sure the whole department knows about it because she's protecting her own back. What's the result? When the restructure happens, she's one of the first out of the door because nobody wants to work with somebody like that. The second person was in exactly the same meeting, but she chose to believe we're in this together. How did that make her feel? Supportive. So when somebody made a mistake, she took them to one side and said, this has happened, how can we sort this out? And then the result is that when they had a restructure, she was promoted because she demonstrated the company's values and people wanted to work with her. So can you see how exactly the same situation can be seen by two different people, and depending on how you interpret it, your result can be totally different. So we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And when we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at change. When we have excess baggage, it also makes it really difficult to climb the ladder, because if you imagine you've got one hand on the rung of the ladder trying to pull yourself up, and the other hand you've got all your baggage that's weighing you back down again. So what happens is it creates tension and we become exhausted before we actually get halfway up the ladder. So the question is, what are you dragging along in your life? Who or what do you need to let go of in order to get to where you want to be. And I mean that with love, because sometimes what we find is the people who hold us back are because they're fearful of you doing well, because what that will mean for them. So you can still do it with love. It doesn't mean that you cut them out, but you just become conscious about how much time you spend with them. Okay, so we've had a look at what some of the blocks are. What can we do about it? Over the next few slides, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. There's going to be quite a lot of information. So what I'm going to say is trust that you will take in the information that you need and that's relevant to you, because not everything's going to be relevant to everybody. So the first one is the wrong ladder. If you're on the wrong ladder, one of the things that, one of the reasons is because you haven't got a sense of purpose. And people sometimes say to me, how can I find my purpose? How do I know what it is? And I always say that life leaves clues. So if you imagine we come into the world with a crown, and the crown is empty, and our job is to go through life, meeting people, having experiences, learning lessons, and those lessons become jewels of wisdom and insight. And whatever's happened, you let that go, you take the learning, you put that in your crown, and you go through life, through different careers, through different relationships. And eventually you'll come to a place in your life where you have an aha moment. You think, okay, so that's why I went on that journey, that's why I was attracted to this relationship or to that job. You get the lessons that you need, which will then reveal to you why you're here, and it will also equip you with all the skills, all the resources, all the contacts that you need to get there. Positive self-perception. What you believe about yourself is much more important than what anybody else thinks of you. Because if you don't think you're good enough, why will anybody else? If you believe that you can't do it, you won't even try. And if you believe that you don't deserve success, you'll find a way to push it away, even when it comes. Maybe as a child, you were different from everybody else. I know I was. And sometimes that's where a lot of the damage and a lot of the beliefs come. But actually, whatever happened, it wasn't about you. It was about other people not having the capacity to open their hearts wide enough to accept difference. So embrace your uniqueness, value yourself, value what you bring to the world, show up, step out, and lead by example. And then surround yourself with the right people. Has anybody heard of the law of attraction? Yeah? Okay. So the law of attraction basically says that we're all made of energy. So whether it's our thoughts, our feelings, a table, a chair, money, relationships, and everything vibrates at different levels. And the law is that like attracts like. So it's a little like you get a tuning fork and you ping it, and the corresponding fork at the other side of the room also starts to vibrate in a match. And that's what it's like. So positive people will attract other positive people in situations. Negative people will attract negative people in situations. And if you're wondering which you are, just look at what you're attracting. When you look at things like happiness and fun and spirituality, they're high vibrations. Things like fear, hate, jealousy, they're low vibrations. And it's very difficult for the two to mix. So when you're around people, they'll give you energy or they'll drain your energy. And I guess the secret is to spend less time around people who drain your energy and more around the people who actually who are happy for your success. The next fear was the next block was around fear. So how do you shift blocks around fear? First one is cultivate curiosity. One of the things that we're really scared of is anything that's different, anything that's not familiar, anything that we don't know. And so if we get curious instead of judgmental about things, it's amazing how your world completely opens up. Because when we stick with the familiar, we stay small. When we get curious, we expand. So I know that I used to be in the corporate world, and when I came out of the corporate world and joined the Princess Trust charity for a short time, all of a sudden I was meeting different people, I was doing different things, and I thought I knew everything, but you know, when you actually go out and speak to people at different levels, it's incredible. And it was everything from people who've been in gangs, people who've been in prison, but also people who are multi-millionaires and philanthropists who are volunteering their time with the Prince's Trust. So it's incredible how, you know, how just by opening your own mindset, you can grow. Creative self-expression. So our thoughts and our feelings get stuck in our body, and if we don't move them, then we become rigid in our thinking and in the way we move. So creativity is the language of the soul. So if you feel inspired to write, to sing, to dance, to clap, to roll down hills, whatever it is you want to do, it's, you know, to get back in touch with your soul. And then rewrite your own story. So when we worry about what other people think, we give our power away. When we become passengers in our own life, we feel like we haven't got any control. So as adults, we have the opportunity to step back into the driving seat and to take control of our lives. 3 parts to our story: the past, the present, and the future. The past is gone. The only relevance it has is what happened, the stories you tell about it, and the emotion that you hook onto it. And if you feel like that's holding you back, you can always rewrite your stories. The present is where you are here, where you are right now. How you behaved in the past, what you believed, the choices you make have brought you to where you are now. What you believe today, the choices you make and how you behave are actively creating your future. So have a think, is there anything that you want to change? What are you happy with, what do you want to keep, and what do you want to let go of? And then the future, that's the most exciting part because it hasn't happened yet. And you're the one who's holding the pen to create what the future is. So have a think about what is it that you want to create, and how are you living your life right now in alignment with that? Again, is there anything that you need to change? And then excess baggage, how do we shift blocks around excess baggage? First one is clear the clutter. So we'll have mental clutter, we'll have physical clutter, and any clutter that restricts you stops you from being creative and taking opportunities. Have a think about what do you need to let go of mentally and physically in order to create space for the new things that you want to bring in. Nurture your physical and mental well-being. So if our body is the vehicle and our mind is the engine, how well are we looking after it? Again, if you think about a car, if you don't look after the engine, it's going to start going rusty and it's not going to take you to where you want to be. And then finally, cultivate an attitude of gratitude. So again, with the law of attraction, it loves gratitude. So if you're thankful for the small things in your life, you're more likely to attract the big things. Okay, so hope you managed to get some useful tips from that. I'm just going to very quickly share my story just to bring all this together. So when I was 4, people said, "Sindy, what do you want to be when you're older?" And I went, "A butterfly." And everybody laughed. And then when I was 6, people said, "Sindy, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I was wiser then. I thought if I say a butterfly, they're going to laugh. So I said, "A fire engine." And they still laughed. And so what I learned was when I share my dreams with people, they laugh. And so I became a chartered marketeer instead. Now, don't get me wrong, I had an amazing career. I worked at the Boots head office in Nottingham for 13 years. I was international marketing manager there, so I helped to take the Boots retail brand over to the Far East and Europe. And I was global trends manager for cosmetics and skincare. And so I worked with celebrity makeup artists, I worked with trends prediction agencies, I travelled the world bringing new different products and advised brands like Number 7 on where to take their brand. So on the outside, it looked great. You know, I had access to chauffeur-driven limousines, I had business class travel, I had 5-star hotels. But what people didn't know was that on the inside, all the striving for pay rises and promotions was driven by low self-esteem, because I had to prove to other people I was good enough, because I didn't believe it. So I had the imposter syndrome, I became a workaholic, and even though I had an amazing career, I ended up burning out. And then our whole team was made redundant, and overnight I went from being a high-flying businesswoman to being unemployed. And it's almost like the universe was saying, okay, Sindy, let's take away your salary, let's take away your network, let's take away the whole identity that you've spent 13 years building. Who are you? What are you here to do? I had no idea. I'd been so disconnected from who I was that I just sat there and cried. And then I started working with this amazing life coach, and she helped me to get back in touch with what was important to me, to get back in touch with my values, to understand how my beliefs and my mindset were actually sometimes my worst enemy, and how I'd held myself back from actually really believing in myself. And the transformation was so profound that I then went and spent a year training to become a life coach myself. Then I went to London, trained as a makeup artist. And one of the reasons was I loved the beauty industry, but at that time there was very little diversity and it was all about perfection. And I wanted to challenge some of those messages. So I set up something called Challenging Perceptions of Beauty, bringing the life coaching and the makeup artistry together to help women to build confidence on the inside and out. And then what I realised was actually a lot of people wear masks either to fit in or gain approval. And again, it was about, don't suppress yourself, express yourself, get to know who you are. So I set a coaching program called Your Power Behind the Mask, which I still run today. So the reason I'm telling you all this is that when I was 4, people said, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a butterfly. And when I look at the reasons I wanted to be a butterfly, what was it that actually attracted me to it? It was about creativity, it was about self-expression, it was about colour. And that's exactly what attracted me to becoming a makeup artist. When I look at why I wanted to be a fire engine, it was because it went around finding people who were in trouble and helping them. That's exactly what I was doing as a life coach. And so the clues were always there. And what I realised was, as a child, we haven't got the knowledge to articulate what we want to do. And so we look at the nearest next thing. So I want to be an astronaut, I want to be an explorer, I want to be a superhero. And so the lesson that I learned there is never stand or never step on a child's dream, because it might just give a clue to their purpose. So just some very quick takeaways. It's never too late to make changes. While you're living and breathing, you've got choices. Embrace fear as an opportunity to grow. Get curious. And value yourself and show people what you deserve, because how you treat yourself is how you give other people permission to treat you. And more than that, live your precious life. I want to leave you with a poem which was... I was introduced to it by my first life coach, who was she was an amazing woman who helped me through burnout and helped me get my life back on track. And sadly, she died just a few months ago. She was 2 years younger than me, so which is why this whole thing about this precious life is just so poignant at the moment. So I'm just going to read this out to you to finish. It's called The Dash. So I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone, from the beginning to the end. He noticed that first came the date of birth, and he spoke the date with tears, but he said what matters most of all is the dash between the years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those that love her know what that special dash was worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and learn, and how we live our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? Because we never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true or real, and understand in our hearts how other people feel. Be less quick to anger, show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life actions to rehash, will you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Thank you very much.